Hey everybody, welcome again to another episode of the ShopNotes Podcast. This is Phil here from ShopNotes Magazine, joined by Logan from Popular Woodworking and John Doyle, who's from everywhere. He does it all. So today is episode number 160, and we're going to have a special midsummer edition of the podcast. This episode is brought to you by Epilogue Laser. You can quickly and easily customize your woodworking projects for added beauty and value. Learn more at epiloguelaser.com.
It's already midsummer, and like the first day of summer was like 2 weeks ago.
Right.
That's the crazy thing.
And I'm sitting on my deck in a sweatshirt. This is fantastic. Right. This is great. This is not normal Iowa weather.
Right. Yeah, 2 days ago it was like in the 90s and hot, and then last night I was like curled up on my deck in a blanket. It's cold.
Yep.
But I'll take it.
Yep. So, rumor has it, well, I want to read a couple of comments from last week's episode where we had some... On the show notes page, if you haven't taken a look at it, there were several submissions to the Red Cedar Challenge. So we will, maybe next week, do a special awards ceremony for that. But a couple of comments we got from Puppy Doc, who's going to be coming for a tour at some point. We finally did make the connection there. He says, I did an epoxy floor covering in my garage and workshop last summer. It sounds at least very similar to what Logan is doing in his shop. I didn't do it myself. I hired a contractor to do my floor, and after hearing Logan talk about his experience, I'm glad I hired it out. Absolutely love the way the floor turned out. The only problem is if he drops something, then he has a hard time seeing it in the total, like screws or small bits of hardware, that it can get lost in the vinyl flex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've experienced that in my dad's shop, and it's a real thing. I went into that knowing full well that would happen.
Okay. I hadn't thought of that at all. That's kind of an interesting thought on there. But
I have to get a roller magnet or something.
Yeah.
Maybe they can develop
a brass
something...
magnet maybe on the other side.
Maybe they can develop a flecking that's like opposite of like hardware, so it makes anything stand out. Like, is this a technology we can work on?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. We'll put it on the list.
Yeah. Or do a flecking that looks like little bits of screws and washers and nuts and stuff like that, so that when it goes down, it just blends right into the floor.
Yep.
Yeah, you just leave it. George Wilmore says, I taught industrial arts for 40 years. I had as much fun as the students. We made several nice projects. Well, strong work, George. That's pretty cool that you did for 40 years. And I'm sure that the students made quite a few really nice projects. Jeff Baker writes, I have to vote for the bowls as the best overall use of red cedar in the round category, followed closely by the chairs as most useful use of red cedar in the a la King's fine woodworking category. The Dahl one wins best use of red cedar for a display case of potential dystopian effigy. Very nice. Then Alfeda158 says, ShopNotes fan fiction doesn't slash, it scarfs. There you go.
All right.
Yep. And then it must have been in response to purging tools or getting rid of them or getting rid of stuff. He also says to just get rid of the Nickelback records.
I can respect that.
So there you go. So if you haven't checked out the images of the photos of the submissions for the Red Cedar Challenge, you can do that at shopnotes.com/podcast and then just click the link for episode number 159. So there you go. It's pretty cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was pretty impressed with the lawn or the deck chairs. And then there's a matching set of side tables that were made in redwood that went with it. And I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool setup.
So I realized maybe we didn't clarify the rules of engagement. But I feel like I should have said Eastern red cedar instead of Western red. Because I think a lot of those projects were Western red, which is a true cedar. It's not like the purple juniper cedar.
Yeah.
You trying to make this an East Coast, West Coast thing?
No, right. It is already an East Coast, West Coast thing. I'm not trying. It is. Those boys from Jersey got nothing.
Yeah.
Well, the bowls were definitely Eastern red cedar.
Yes, the bowls were, absolutely. I think the doll sarcophagus was as well.
Yeah. And there was a blanket chest that was Eastern red cedar. Mm-hmm. So maybe the only outlier would be the
chairs.
The chairs.
Which I do love. I do love me some Western red cedar. Actually, that was one of the avenues I went down while trying to figure out what paneling to do in the shop was Western red cedar. It's too expensive in the middle of Iowa.
Yeah. So have you finally decided what the paneling's going to be?
Oh, I'm gonna do the alder. It's the cheapest. I sawed a bunch of pine for it. I just don't have enough, and I would, at this point, I'd just rather get it in from Liberty, resaw it real quick, and put it up. I don't want to mess around with it. So, yeah. So I'm gonna do alder. It's gonna be, that was my plan for the window jambs and trim was alder anyways. So it'll just blend all together. So it'll work nice. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
You have a lot of resawing on your hands then.
Well, yes, I do. Approximately 400 square feet is what I need. So resaw 200 square feet into 400 square feet.
Right.
But I decided because I'm going to do it vertically instead of horizontally, I can cut them all down to 40-inch sections. And then I'm just resawing 40-inch boards instead of 14-foot boards or whatever Liberty would give me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So which of your bandsaws is that one going to be done on?
The shop's Laguna with a carbide tooth blade. However, I was going to ask you guys. All right, so the stock I'm getting in is going to be random width, 4 to 6 inches. Okay, anything over 6 inches is another 50 cents a board foot. So screw that. So it's going to be 4 to 6. I'm going to do a half lap. So it's going to be kind of like a shiplap style, so that there'll be laps on both edges, for each side, whatever. And I'm going to resaw it down to 1/2-inch paneling. So I'm thinking 1/4 inch, 3/16 inch deep rabbet along the edges. Would you guys tackle that on the table saw? Would you tackle it on the router table? Knowing it's knotty alder.
Mm-hmm. With that much, I feel like the table saw does the best about removing waste and chips and stuff. Where it's on a router, you're doing that many rabbets that it always feels like the dust and the chips kind of
Yeah, that's fair.
All stuck in there and around the fence, and I don't know. I would think table saw would be the fastest.
Yeah. Well, and I'm concerned about those knots, and I think the table saw will deal with those a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
At least trying to avoid,
probably.
I'm trying to avoid chipping out the edges, if there's a knot right on the edge. Yeah. So.
I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
I think, to me, the bigger issue is what John said, that unless you have super awesome dust collection off of it, that it's just going to build up pretty quickly back there.
Yeah. I think with doing that much, if I try to do it on the router table, I'll probably set up a zero clearance fence on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that would probably help the best. But yeah. That's a problem for a different day.
Right. If you do it in the video studio, just make sure you empty the dust collector bag first, because I think it's pretty full right now.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yep. I'll do it in the shop where it has the 55-gallon drum. And then I'll only have to empty it 3 times.
Right. Yeah. So I hear also in regards to your shop, Logan, that there may or may not be another lathe.
God. Yeah, there's that bus. Jeez Louise.
That was off the record.
That was, yes.
Yeah.
Let's strike that from this video. Well, okay. Yes. The problem is, like, I mean, it's not one no, it's probably one I'll keep because it's weird. Yeah, one of our previous shop craftsmen, Dana, likes to collect logs, and I go out and saw for him occasionally. I don't let Dana pay me for logs that I cut. Instead, I've always bartered with him. So I got my gooseneck trailer from Dana and his brother Joel for a bunch of sawing. And Dana reached out to me last week and said, hey, I got a bunch of logs that I need cut. You know, you want to barter the sawing for he has a lathe called a Konig, Konig. It's a German lathe. And for the life of me, I cannot find a lick of information about them. Like, I'm guessing, I mean, it had to have been, so Dana got it from our office when we moved buildings. You know, we had to downsize a bunch of tools and stuff. And I tried to buy it. Like, I dropped a $400 or $500 bid on it immediately, trying to get people out of the way. And there was I think maybe it might have been like Ted and Dana going at it for that lathe. But anyways, long story short, he's had it in his garage and it has not been set up in 5 years. So he's like, I'd like to trade you that lathe for sawing. And I said, okay, cool. That's great. I can't find a lick of information about him. And if I remember right, there was like a huge box of a bunch of attachments that went with it and stuff. And I don't know what the attachments were for. I feel like there was maybe like a metal cross slide that went with it. I don't remember. Now, yeah. I don't think that lathe's going to go inside my shop area because I mean, this is a woodworking shop that we're going to be doing photos in. I don't need to be a turning studio. I'm already going to have two lathes in there. So, and right now I have 4 lathes. This Konig could be the 5th one. I'm going to sell the 2 little ones probably. I don't know. It's just, I'm lathe rich.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Is that lathe, was that in the carriage house? Is that?
Yes, it was.
I want to say that was bought probably before my time, a long time ago, and they bought all these extra parts because it wasn't something you could get replacement parts for. So they like pre-bought replacements or something like that.
Okay.
Because was it from Germany or?
Oh yeah, it's German.
Like
yeah,
like they got it and they just bought all the extra parts because you couldn't get replacement parts for it. So it's like, and then I don't know that I've ever seen it used here.
Well, I know
it was back in the day. So.
Yeah.
I think Steve Johnson did some turning for a couple of Woodsmith projects on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That they had set it up. So
yeah, I mean it's one of those things that I could find a picture of like one Konig lathe for sale, and if I remember right, it was like a standard form lathe, like flatbeds, kind of like a common lathe. But the only pictures of Konig lathes I could find have like tubular beds, kind of like a shopsmith would. But I don't remember that being like that. So I don't know. We will see. And every time I've been to Dana's place, he's like, oh yeah, the lathe's back there, and it's stacked behind piles of wood so you can't even see it.
Right.
So yeah.
So that's the other part of the payment is that you have to dig it out.
Get it out.
Also.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So but yeah, you know. It's not a problem unless let it become a problem. You can only use one at a time,
Right.
But if you set up a lathe for a project, you can leave it set up for that project and go to the other lathe.
There you go.
You could turn a green bowl on it and then just
Let
leave
it
on
dry.
there to dry.
Yes, there
Yes.
you go. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Or once your shop is done, you'll be able to do like small lathe instruction classes, turning instruction classes.
Yeah, that kind of was in the back of my mind, because both you and I teach classes for the Des Moines Woodworkers. I have brought up to the guys there doing some basic turning classes for woodworkers, because there's the Des Moines Wood Turners Club. There's an Ames one as well.
Yeah.
I've brought up doing some basic turning classes, and it's kind of like, whoa, we can't do that because those are the wood turners' lathes. Those aren't our lathes. So the Des Moines woodworkers don't have lathes, even though the lathes are in the same shop. It's the wood turners. So it's like,
Yeah.
now I got 5. I will have 5 sitting here. It's like, we could do turning classes. But, I think that's more than I want to bite off right now.
Yeah.
I just picture like a Jets Sharks rival gang dance off between the regular woodworkers and the wood turners going down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just
That's,
they
Yeah, it's
shall
definitely
not
a
mix.
turf war
Stay off,
thing.
stay off their turf.
Yeah.
And you're just there in the middle.
Yep.
Both,
Can't we
playing
all
both
get
sides.
along?
Yeah.
That would be a question that I have for anybody who's part of a woodworking club in your town. Are there turf wars or shade thrown around for the different groups that are in there?
Yep. Then you got your wood carvers on the outside and
Intarsia artists.
Yep.
Yeah. And I get it. I mean, if you don't know what you're doing on a lathe, you can break stuff. You can hurt yourself. So I get it.
Even if you do know what you're doing.
You can
Right.
break stuff. What, John? What are you saying?
I've just heard things.
Yeah.
Nothing was injured yesterday.
Yeah.
No.
Except 2 bowls. A bowl and a hollow form.
And a clean pair of underwear.
No!
I'm talking about me.
Oh, you sorry.
Just watching.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we were talking about this yesterday when you were doing the turning video. You had mentioned about turning alabaster.
Yeah.
Is there any other non-wood material that you would be interested in turning? Just to see what it would be like to do.
Yeah. Now I'm gonna get some shade for this, and bring it on, people. I would love to turn some ivory. Supposedly ivory is one of the nicest materials to turn and use. You can't do it because people like elephants and rhinos. So there's.
Can you
that.
find sustainably harvested ivory anywhere, or
I
renewable
don't-
ivory, or
No, the best you get is vegetable ivory, which is a tagua nut.
Yeah. I
which
think
they're-
I thought I saw something about hippo teeth or something like that.
Yeah, and actually I have a hippo tooth downstairs. It's 2 halves of a hippo's tooth. It came in a big box of stuff I bought. Yeah, and I don't know how that works different. So you used to be able to do a lot with walrus ivory because there's a lot of walruses, right? Something in the, I think, Obama administration era changed where you can't use it anymore. But I feel like you could still get it. Now you can get mastodon ivory. So you can do that.
Because they're not endangered anymore.
No, that ship has sailed long ago. The other thing that you can use, and I know a lot of people do, is bone. So a lot of people will turn cow bone, and I guess it turns really, really nicely.
Okay.
And it's very easy to get. You just go to a pet store. You can get and the nice thing about the pet store is you can buy ones, you can select them, right? So a lot of times you'll be able to sort. I know John has something to say.
I'm just thinking of like a puppy bin. Where it's like, oh, these puppies didn't sell. We're just gonna throw them away. If you want to, dig through the box.
Yeah. No, you get those the dog chews. Obviously not like the peanut butter filled ones, but you get just the cow bones, and you can select ones that have an even wall thickness and they're fairly round, and supposedly that stuff is pretty good. There's a turner. I've watched her stuff. I want to say it's Dixie Biggs, but I might be wrong with that. That would do a lot of not ornamental turning, because that's a whole different game. But do some threaded boxes. I've also seen guys do threaded boxes out of elk antlers. Because elk and moose have the biggest antler bases on them. Like a big whitetail, will be that big around, where an elk will be, 3 inches.
A couple of inches, yeah.
Yeah, and you can do, you can turn them with standard turning tools. Supposedly it doesn't stink very bad. I've heard turning deer antler, which I've never done, amazingly. Supposedly that smells really bad. But I think that's probably only if you're using carbide tools. I think if you're using cutting tools, it probably is okay.
Yeah.
Because you're not getting as much dust in the air. So no, I would really be interested in turning some ivory, but can't do it. So,
Mm-hmm.
But
we've talked about resin bowling balls in the past too. Is there any other resin products that you can turn?
You could turn a ton. Yeah, you could turn a ton of resin stuff. The problem, I don't like turning resin. It's so staticky. It makes a freaking mess. Mm-hmm. Wet shavings make a mess, but those are easy to clean up. The resin, epoxy, whatever it is, polyester or an acrylic, it's so staticky. And it just sticks to everything. And I don't like it. And it's chippy, and I don't care for it as much. So there is a couple of forms of plastic that supposedly turn really nicely. Machinists used some, is it Dacron or the dense plastic that they'll use.
Oh, Delrin, yeah.
Delrin, thank you. Delrin plastic. Some of that stuff, it would be kind of cool just to turn. I don't know what I would do with it. I enjoy turning brass and aluminum and bronze. Those are fun ones to turn because you can good tools turn them really nicely. Good sharp tools. So I like those. The bowling ball thing
pewter a few years ago.
Yeah, and pewter turns great. The bowling ball thing that John was talking about, I turned that on a video. That video's floating around somewhere, maybe on our YouTube channel. I don't remember. It's floating around somewhere. It was the wrong type of bowling ball. It was not resin. It was some form of plastic or rubber. It probably had asbestos in it. But modern bowling balls turn really nice, supposedly. I've seen guys turn bowling pins as well. The inner core ends up being laminated maple, which is supposed to be really nice. Laminated maple would turn nice, but nothing else super crazy. The alabaster thing kind of is interesting to me because I know that people have turned it on a lathe. I don't know what type of tools. I'm assuming you maybe have to scrape it, something like that. You might be able to use. I don't know that you have to use carbide. You might be able to use standard tools. I don't know. But I just like the fact that you can get that really, really white, marbly look with it. And I think there's some really cool, elegant type looks you could do with an alabaster, hollow form with an ebony rim or something like that. I think would be really, really neat. So,
yeah, I think it would be kind of cool to see it as pendants or
it would
finial or even drawer pulls, that you could do is.
Ooh, drawer pulls would be really cool. Yeah, that would be cool. So it's something I might have to go down the path of. So
Yeah. So anybody out there that's turned alabaster or soapstone or something unusual, you could put that in the comments on our YouTube channel. That would be kind of fun to hear your experience with it. Or if you've turned something and it didn't quite turn out the way you wanted, what's the disaster story there? And then we'll see if we can find a link for the bowling ball debacle. See if we can find that somewhere.
It's probably in the bloopers file or something.
Want to give a special shout out to Epilogue Laser for sponsoring today's episode. They have a variety of options for you to be able to customize and increase the value of your woodworking projects. You could check out all the deals that they have going on over at epiloguelaser.com.
I got a question for you guys.
Okay.
This kind of stems from back, I don't know, probably episode 30 or something. We had no plan, so we did a Logan's Rapid 60 questions episode.
Yep.
You guys remember that? It was like a get
and
to
you had
know
promised
the staff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
think
had
that's where
promised
we
to
kind
do
of
more of
peaked.
those.
Back episode 30, that was our peak. It's been a slow slide since then.
Okay. So I got a couple of them. If you guys, this is more just to get to know the mental state of all of us. You guys have to choose one, okay? You can either never use power tools again, or you can use power tools, but every time you do a glue up, you have to eat the glue booger on top of the bottle.
That's me. I was going to do that anyways.
Not a question.
Yeah.
Not a question.
Power
with John.
tools all the way. Yeah. Power tools and glue buggers. I think, I pretty much do that every time I go to glue up. I bite the.
You just
I
bite
usually
the top
bite
off?
the top off. I don't swallow it though. I spit it out. But you get the taste. Though.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're still tasting it.
Phil, are you using glue? Are you using power
You get
tools
the
or not?
tang. I would probably skip that and go with not using power tools.
Okay, that's fair. I would eat the boogers. I would eat the glue boogers. So.
That's why I leave them for you,
You know what?
underneath
Yes.
the bench.
It's
Yeah,
sterile
thank
and
you.
it tastes delicious. So,
Yeah.
I eat it.
Now, if it was,
All right.
if
you
that was
know,
the
you
case,
know.
then I would just go straight hide glue after that.
That's
Then
true.
it would
Yeah,
be-
because it's basically like a steak.
It's gelatin.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, or you go all like Chris Schwartz and you just go straight to gummy bear glue, right?
Right.
So, all right. The next question. We're gonna leave wings out of this, but thighs or breasts for chicken.
Breasts.
Thighs.
I'm a thighs guy too.
Yeah.
And I only say that because
I
I'm
think-
sitting next to my grill and I did chicken thighs on the smoker the other night. Oh my god, they're so good.
Yeah. I probably like the flavor of thighs better, but just being the one who cooks and cuts up, bone-in stuff.
Yeah.
It's it's harder to bone a thigh than
It is.
a breast. So.
Yeah. And everybody likes chicken wings for the most part, so you gotta leave those out.
Oh
so.
yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. The final question I had prepared for this segment. Kiss, Marry, Kill. You have to select one woodworking title for each of those. Well, let's change this, okay? One woodworking
of ours or
magazine goes
any-
in the shop. Any. Okay.
Okay.
One woodworking magazine has to go in the shop. One goes next to the toilet, and one disappears from the face of the earth.
Oh. Pop wood, kill for sure.
Wow! I should have seen that coming.
Shop notes goes in the shop, or maybe by the toilet. I don't know. Shop notes is a good one to thumb through, just sitting in the bathroom. Maybe I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd date Woodsmith, but I wouldn't marry it.
Okay. See, I'm putting shop notes in the shop. I am killing Wood Magazine. Shots fired at those guys.
See, I didn't want to bring other people into
downstream.
this.
Nope, I'm doing it. And then I'm putting fine woodworking next to the toilet.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Or mortise and tenon.
Nope. Nah.
They like
Ooh.
No?
Can I change my
the
kill
pictures?
to mortise and tenon?
It's a bloodbath. You're just like killing everybody.
We know most of these guys, so it's all in jest.
Yeah.
But I'm interested for Phil's answer. Oh, he's probably killing Intarsia Weekly, I'm guessing.
Intarsia Weekly.
That's just too much.
In the shop, I have ShopNotes. So
Okay. Yep.
I'll go the same thing with you for by the toilet is fine woodworking. That's a good.
Yep.
It's a good reader.
Yep.
And then the kill one would probably be
You just can't narrow it down. There's so many.
right.
Yeah.
They're all so awful. I
Woodcraft.
will. Okay. Yep. I was gonna say I almost said Woodcraft just because it's a trade magazine, or not. It's not a trade magazine, but it's it's their own magazine. So we had to fire some shots down the road at Wood Magazine, though. Come on.
Yeah. We're naming names here
Now
on the
they're gonna-
ShopNotes podcast.
They're going to start a podcast and just tear into us.
Yep. Oh, I did have one more question prepared.
Okay.
Would you guys rather all hardwood you use has 200% increased movement through the seasons? So it expands and contracts 200% of what it does now.
Okay, I'm going with option 2, no matter what it is.
Or build
can
everything out of
only-
MDF.
I say you can only use the ultra cheap plywood that I built that flat file out of.
This is a tough one because both
I
are
know.
terrible.
I'm going with wood movement, 100%.
Maybe it just like lasts a season or two and explodes and you start all over rather than just the cheap plywood that's terrible
Still taste.
sawdust and chippy and
Yeah.
Ugh.
So that plywood, I built a flat file. It was actually a Craig Tool sponsored video. But it was a flat file. So like a industrial style blueprint drawer. But it was like as a coffee table built out of plywood.
Yep.
And this was during the peak of the plywood shortage, right? This was like COVID. Everything was 400% price. This was the only plywood I could get at Menards. And they must have bought this batch from the back of a, oil freighter or something, because it was super lightweight. It was, as soon as you cut it, like everybody in the studio was coughing. Like, I don't know what was in it. It was nasty.
yeah. That project reminded me of the scene from The Princess Bride when they're torturing him and he's like, I've now just taken 1 year off of your life. How do you feel?
Yes.
That's what the end of that project felt like.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
It was awful. It was bad. It's almost like I had like fiberglass in it. Like, it gave me that.
I don't
type
know.
of cough.
It was a terrible, terrible taste, smell that was in there. And that was what was, the lightweight was really interesting because, a typical 3/4 inch sheet of plywood is like 60 to 80 pounds, depending, you know, and this one was probably 40.
Yeah. It was weird. Very weird.
We could have played Frisbee with it out in the parking lot. It was.
Yeah. Yep. Well, that concludes my questions I had.
There you go. Yeah. So if you feel free to if anybody listeners want to answer those questions yourself, put those in the comment section on our YouTube channel. That would be a fun little interactive element for today's podcast. So there you go. That wraps it up for another episode of the ShopNotes Podcast. Also, check out our show notes page, shopnotes.com/podcast, to find out the free plan that goes with today's episode. We'll also put a link to it on the YouTube page that goes with it. Want to give a special shout out to Epilogue Laser for sponsoring today's episode. They have a variety of options for you to be able to customize and increase the value of your woodworking projects. You can check out all the deals that they have going on over at epiloguelaser.com.